Welcome to episode 92 of the Loane Hockey Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about one of the players we actually started off one of our first podcast episodes with, Macklin Celebrini. And I wanted to talk about him again and talk about what he could be in the 24-25 NHL season with the regular season starting today. And he's set to make his debut on Thursday. Celebrini is a guy who's looked really good throughout training camp. He's looked really good in line combos throughout preseason, and obviously he's made the opening night roster. And you look at his game and the foundation within his game and what he could be, could very well be a player that could hit at least 60, 70 or more points this season. And we know he's a dynamic player. We know he has dynamic hands. We know he has dynamic hockey sense. But the things that really stand out to me in his game the most is in terms of his manipulation and deception ability and how he's able to translate that to his on puck play. So with Celebrini, he's a guy that really is able to utilize those abilities within his game to be a threat in many different situations. And he is a guy, when he has the puck in his stick, he can toe drag around you. He can use lateral playmaking and lateral puck handling around you. He can find ways to evade you. He can find ways to go through you. He can find ways to go inside of you. Just the way he attacks in terms of his routes with the puck, you never really know what he's going to do. And the unpredictability factor allows him to be manipulative and create that deception in his game. And in terms of his puck skills and how he can utilize manipulation, deception, that allows him to create space. So by having that manipulation, deception ability, he can really translate effectively with his not only his puck handling skills, but at the same time his overall hockey sense and how he's able to translate that. So Celebrini is a guy who also brings roundedness to his game, so he can play a defensive role, he can play a shutdown role, he can play an offensive role seamlessly. He can do a little bit of everything at the same time. And so that allows him to be in control of the game. That allows him to be in control of what he can do in his decisions on the ice. And he's a guy that is very much a threat, even in defensive situations, because he's quick to close with his feet and his stick, and he's quick to pressure. And defensively, he's a guy you don't necessarily look at his defensive play as often because he's so dynamic offensively. That's what's going to stand out right away to you the most. But his defensive habits, his defensive play, his ability to quickly close, quickly shut plays down is a really big standout ability of his and allows him to be a driving factor in his defensive play. So he's a guy that defensively you can rely upon him as well. And it'll be interesting to see if they play him on the PK and shutdown situations early on in the season, or if that's something that takes a little bit more time for him to adapt to in the NHL. At the same time, he's a guy that plays with pace defensively and he supports all of his other teammates really well in the defensive zone. And he's a guy that really adapts and can adapt to many different roles in the offensive zone and also in the defensive zone. So with Celebrini, you're getting an all-around threat, an all-around playmaker, a guy who can contribute in all situations. And it'll be interesting to see how he does with Will Smith. I would imagine those two are going to be aligned together. And they haven't played too much together throughout the preseason and throughout training camp. He's played a lot with Tyler Toffoli on the line, but at the same time, him and Will Smith would be a dynamic duo, and him and Tyler Toffoli would be a dynamic duo. So either way, you're getting a good line. And so with Celebrini, he can play with anybody. That's the thing that stands out the most with him is throughout training camp, he's adapted with everybody that he's played with, and it doesn't matter who it is. He's learned to adapt to those players, and he's found ways to be able to create offense, not only based upon those players, but individually as well. So Macklin Celebrini is going to be a very intriguing player to watch, not just because of the name, but because of the actual ability in his game in the 24-25 NHL season.